So you see a problem like this on your exam paper and you're wondering, how do I attack this question? We are given two matrices and we're asked to evaluate the square of one of them, and that probably confuse you a bit because you're thinking, should I multiply the entries by themselves or do I multiply the matrix by the matrix? Well, only one of that is correct, and it's the latter. You should multiply the matrix by itself. So let's do that. So matrix W multiplied by matrix W, and there's a particular way in which we multiply two matrices. Well, we're going to divide the first matrix into rows and the second matrix into columns. This is row 1, row 2, row 1, going left to right. And this is column 1, this is column 2, going vertically from top to bottom. Then we're going to multiply row 1 by column 1. Now, bear in mind that this is a 2 by 2 matrix, and this is also a 2 by 2 matrix. How we know that it's possible to multiply these matrices has to do with these two inner numbers. As long as these two numbers are the same, then we say the matrices are conformable for multiplication. In other words, we can multiply them. And the resultant matrix will be a 2 by 2 matrix, the n numbers, a 2 by 2 matrix. And so we'll get a matrix with 4 entries as the result. So we're going to get one entry here, one entry here, one entry here, and another entry here. So the matrix will pretty much look like matrix W. Alright, so here we multiply row 1 by column 1. Our answer is going to be here in row 1, column 1. When we multiply row 1 by column 2, our answer will be in row 1, which is still row 1, but not this column, but the second column here. So row 1 by column 2, our answer will be here. Now when we go down to row 2, because we're going to multiply by row 2 next, then our answers are going to be here in row 2. So row 2 times column 1, our answer will be here in row 2, which is down here, and column 1. When we multiply row 2 by column 2, our answer will be down here in row 2, but in this column. And that's the idea. Row 1 times column 1. Now the thing you have to remember is that one row by one column gives you one answer. So when we're multiplying row by column, we take the first entry of the row and multiply it by the first entry of the column. So 2 times 2 will give us 4. Now we're still in row 1, column 1. We're going to take the second entry of row 1 and multiply it by the second entry of column 1. So it's going to be negative 4 times negative 1, which is going to give us positive 4. And so we put a plus sign and put 4. So really it's the first entry times the first entry that gave us 4, plus or added to the second entry times the second entry. So that's 4 plus 4. And our answer there will be in what? Row 1, column 1. The answer there, which is 8. So one row by one column gave us one entry. Next, row 1 by column 2. So my answer should be where? In the same row 1, but column 2. Because I'm multiplying by row 1, column 2. So let's put that down. So row 1 times column 2, first entry by the first entry. So that's 2 times negative 4, which gives us negative 8. Added 2. Let's go to the same row 1 and column 2. So negative 4 times 1, which is going to be negative 4. So what's negative 8 plus negative 4? We're adding two numbers with the same sign. So we add the numbers, that is ignoring the signs. 8 plus 4 is 12, and keep the sign. So that would be negative 12. Now we're going to do the same thing all over again, but this time with row 2 instead of row 1. So we're going to go row 2 times column 1. Where should our answer be? In the second row, but of the first column, which will be right here. So row 2, column 1, answer should be where? Row 2, column 1. So it's the first of the row by the first of the column. That'd be negative 2. Let's put that right here. Added 2. We're not finished with the row 1, row 2, column 2, 1. Okay, still row 2, column 1. So we go to second entries now. So 1 times negative 1, which will be negative 1. Now we're adding two numbers with the same sign, so we add and keep the sign. And so that's going to be negative 3. Now we move on to the second column being multiplied by the same row 2. So our answer is going to be where? In the row 2, but of the second column. So that will be right here. So row 2, column 2. -1, the first entry, times the first entry. -1 times -4. That's +4. And the second entry now, 1 times 1. So it's the second entry of row 2 by the second entry of column 2. And 1 times 1 is 1, so we're going to add that. Now what is 4 plus 1? That is 5. Now clearly, what you have seen is that when you multiply numbers with the same sign, you get positive. When you're multiplying quantities with different signs, you get negative. And same sign mean negative by negative could also be positive times positive. You're gonna get positive. Signs multiplied that are the same give you positive, and once they're different, you're going to get negative. Also, you saw that when you're adding two numbers with the same sign, you add and keep the sign. So if I'm adding two numbers that are positive, I'll get positive. All right, I should get positive. And if I'm adding two numbers that are negative, both negative, then I'll get more negative. Right, so what about if I'm adding two numbers that have different signs though? Well, let's say we have a very small positive and a very large negative. Then my answer will be negative. My answer will be negative, right? But we have to remember to subtract and keep the negative. And if I'm adding two numbers and one is a very small negative but a large positive, I'm still going to subtract, but my answer is going to be positive. But you have to remember to subtract still. So once the two numbers that I'm adding have different signs, I subtract, but I keep negative. And if the two numbers that I'm adding again are different, I subtract, but in this case, I keep positive. When negative is bigger, I keep negative. When positive is bigger, I keep positive. But when I say bigger, I'm talking about the number itself. When you ignore the sign, the number itself, is it bigger? All right, so hopefully that review was helpful. But this is a solution to w squared. Now, let's go on now over here to w squared times I. Well, what is w squared? We already worked that out because we're dealing with the same problem. Even though it's part B, part A evaluated w squared already. So I'm going to put back the w squared since that's the first thing. And I have 8, -12, -3, and 5. Now I'm supposed to multiply that by I. I don't need to put the multiplication sign because with matrices next to each other like this, it means we're multiplying. And I taken from here is the identity matrix with 1, 0, 0, 1 in this order as we've seen. Now the same thing we did the last time, we're going to multiply row by column. But this time I'll go through that a little bit faster. Of course, we know it's going to be what? The result is going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. The order of it then, we're going to have 2 rows and 2 columns. All right, we did that already. So this is possible to multiply these two matrices. Now, let's start. So we are in row 1, then we are row 2, then we have column 1, column 2. So row 1 times column 1, our answer will be right here in row 1. So 8 times 1 is 8, added 2, that's first by first, second by second. In other words, second of the row 1 multiplied by second of column 1. That's -12 times 0, which is 0. So far, our answer there is going to be 8. Next, we're still in row 1 because we have more columns. So, well, only one more column. So row 1 by column 2 now. So our answer should still be in row 1 because we're multiplying by row 1 still. But now, since we're multiplying column 2, our answer will not be in column 1, but over here in column 2. So row 1, column 2 will be right here. So it's going to be 8. Let's go again. Row 1 times column 2. 8 by 0. That is the first entry is multiplied. That gives us 0. 8 times 0 is 0. Let's multiply the second entries of row 1, column 2. So it'd be negative 12 times 1, and that would be negative 12. So that's 0 plus negative 12. And of course, 0 added to any number is going to be that same number. So 0 added to negative 12 will still be negative 12. Let's go down to row 2 now, which implies that our answer will be in row 2. Negative 3 times 1. We're multiplying row 2 by column 1. So our answer should be in row 2, column 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Multiplying by 1 will always give you back that same number, which is negative 3 in this case. Now we go to the second entry of row 2 and column 1 that we're multiplying. So 5 times 0 is 0. And any number times multiplied by 0 will give it back 0. Then we go to column 2 now. We're multiplying by row 2. So row 2 times column 2. Our answer should be in row 2, but the second column, which would be right here. So negative 3 times 0 is going to be 0. Added to second entry is multiplied now. 5 times 1, that's 5. And so 0 added to any quantity is that quantity, so that will be negative 3. 0 added to any quantity is that same quantity, so that will be 5. Now, do you notice what matrix this is? If you look at what W squared is, do you realize that we have 8, negative 12, negative 3, 5? 8, negative 12, negative 3, 5. We still end up with the matrix W, which is W squared. Right? And that's because the I matrix, that is the identity matrix, with components 1, 0, 0, 1. As long as we have matrix 2 by 2 matrix with 1, 0, 0, 1, any matrix, any 2 by 2 square matrix multiplied by it will actually give you back that same matrix. So it's very similar to the number 1. It's just like saying I'm multiplying W squared by 1, which will give you back W squared. So the identity matrix is analogous to the number 1, operates in the same way that it gives you back whatever you multiply by it. Okay, and that's this video. Hopefully it was very helpful. All the best in your exam.